Hello and welcome back to Ollie Talks Airsoft. Today we're going to be talking about how you can clean and maintain your gas blowback rifle. Before we get started on the actual process, so this is going to be a top-down video, I just wanted to talk about why you might need to do this and what the differences are when you step to a gas blowback rifle from like an AEG platform, and why might you need to clean it more and kind of what's going on there. So the reason that you would probably need to clean a gas blowback rifle more often than you would need to clean an AEG or something is because each time you pull the trigger, some gas, usually with some silicone oil, is being fired into the system of your gun. What that's going to do is it's going to create a fine film of lubricant, which is fantastic because this is a mechanical device. So you've got lots of moving parts here which have to mesh together and also have to be able to slide across each other. Now, when you get like a buildup of dirt or anything like that in the system, it'll slow it down, it'll start leading to malfunctions, and this is why you would normally have to clean them. So the fact that you're already pumping something dirty through the system means that really every time you're looking to take your gas blowback rifle out, you should probably have a look to do some very basic cleaning on it. And I know this is a big thing in the gas blowback community, and opinions are kind of divided as to how often you should clean your gas blowback rifle. And it tends to go with your level of experience. So people that are very new to gas blowback rifles, and I was exactly the same, I would clean this before I took it out and after I got back. So this was being cleaned like probably over cleaned, to be honest. And I can now look back and say that and say, actually, well, yeah, I was doing all the cleaning that people had suggested doing, but I wasn't seeing the benefit like when I was going out and playing. So now I'll tend to play like a few games. So I'll tend to maybe play like 2 or 3 games before I take this apart and give it a good clean down. And the reason for that is there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that I use multiple different rifles, and so if I take this out for a game day, it may only see like 2 or 3 hours of use actually out on the field. In that much time, it's not really going to build up too much dirt unless I do something really obvious like drop it in the mud, in which case, yeah, your more immediate attention is going to be required on something like that. But for the most part, it's just going to be silicone and grease and dirt that's building up in the system. Another thing that you really want to be careful with when you're looking at gas blowback rifles is not to over lubricate. If you've got a clean and dry surface, then a quick blow and a lot of that dirt is actually going to disappear. Well, if you want your system to run at the most optimum level, then you do need to have some lubrication in there, and unfortunately it will attract dirt. That's just one of those things that happens. So periodically you are going to need to go in and you are going to clean it out. So for me, I will take my gun out and I will run it. When I notice that maybe the BBs aren't flying as I would expect, or the blowback isn't quite as strong, or the system's just a bit more sluggish, maybe it's not locking back, that says to me, okay, well there's probably a bit of dirt in the system, so I need to get in there and have a little bit of a clean. So this particular gun has now been out to maybe 3 or 4 games and it hasn't had a clean yet. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go top down, we're going to take the gun apart and we're going to do some basic cleaning. And for this, I've only got a few items, so you're not going to actually need very much for this. I've got my favourite toilet roll. I have some Q-tips or some cotton buds. I also have, this is one of my just dirty rags for wiping things down. And I finally have a cleaning and unjamming rod. This is one of the most important things. So they do come with most gas blowback rifles. Certainly all Tokyo Maruis will come with a cleaning and unjamming rod. And I'd suggest mine are usually kept in my gun cases, so I will leave one in each gun case. So even if I forget it, there's still going to be one there for me to use on the day should I need to. So first thing you're going to need to do, and I'll do this bit while while everything's still facing me. Take the magazine out the gun, cock it. I would suggest removing anything like a sling, because they kind of just get in the way. So anything like that, just take and put to one side. Okay, you want the gun cocked, you will then push out the rear pin, split the rifle like so, and push out the front pin. buffer comes apart. At this point, I would normally remove the buffer and the spring, and any additional 10Ps that you have in there. If you're wondering why I've got 10Ps in there, then go check out my 10P mod video. But I have 70p, that's about $1 worth of 10Ps in my stock. Little tap, all clear. So that's now my lower, and let's get the upper receiver. All I'm going to do is just pull back on the charging handle, remove the bolt and charging handle. So let's go top down and let's clean all these different components. Okay, let's go. So first off, let's put the main components to one side just for the second. And what I'm going to start off with is some nice simple stuff. So let's get the charging handle, bit of toilet paper. And the reason I particularly like toilet paper, I think I've explained this in another video, is because when you wipe it across things, you get to see exactly how much dirt is coming off, and you get to see what you're actually removing from the system. And I'll show you why that's important. This is a particularly good item to clean, just as an explanation of that. So just going down the runners, and you can see how absolutely filthy it is. Keep on moving the paper around, getting to nice clean bits. Anyone that's seen my previous videos as well will know that I like making these little triangles, and because you can kind of really push them into dirty areas and really make the most of your cleaning by doing that. So let's give this, all I'm looking to do here is kind of give it a general wipe off. Make sure you get underneath here, underneath this bit that catches on the latch here. So what I'll often do is just pick that up, put it underneath, and just kind of like pull it out. There you go, lots of dirt and lots of nastiness on there. Okay, not too bad. So let's see if we have actually effectively cleaned it by going to a clean bit of the paper here, and let's just run it down there one more time. You see there's a lot less dirt coming off there. There's always going to be a little bit. You're never going to get this perfect, but as you can see, most of it has come off now. So I'm pretty satisfied. Also, this gives me an opportunity to make sure that this pin here isn't walking out, and I can see that it isn't. So I'm quite happy. Functionality on that, top notch. Okay, let's move on to another couple of simple components. Now, I'm going to quickly clean off this spring. The spring is probably one of the least essential parts for you to clean. And in fact, to anyone that basically gets annoyed by the twang of a buffer tube, then you can actually get this spring, and you can see that mine's got a kink in it here. Doesn't really matter too much. It still functions fine. But the reason that this twangs is obviously just pingy metal. But you can actually cover this in grease before you put it into your buffer tube, and that will stop a lot of the twanging. I know a lot of people don't like it. I don't really care. I don't really mind too much. But that's, each to their own, isn't it? If you care, then you care. If you don't, you don't. So just giving this little buffer a quick once over. All I'm doing is just looking any of those areas that are going to build up dirt. I'm just going to give them a quick wipe through. Again, this isn't a particularly vital component, but you see I'm getting a bit of dirt off there, and this is all stuff that's going to be in the system. Right, throw that away. Next bit. Okay, so we'll start to move on to the slightly more interesting parts now. So this is obviously the bolt. Now, under normal circumstances, I actually wouldn't bother taking this apart. This isn't something that that you should normally need to deal with. But I will show you how I give this its normal cleaning. So all I'm going to do is just press relatively hard, and what I'm doing here is I'm getting my nails and I'm trying to get into these areas at the side here. So that's going to be the areas where the dirt's really going to build up, and you can see how much is coming off there. So again, I'll do that. Try and run your nails along the side there if you've got any. And again, plenty of dirt. I mean, on the face of it, it seems relatively clean, but it's not until you kind of start giving it a little wipe and you realise, oh, actually, there is quite a bit of dirt that's built up on there. Again, make your point. It can be a fatty or a thinny, doesn't really matter, but it allows you to get into these corners and these tighter components. There you go, and you can see how much dirt has managed to come off there. when it comes to the actual nozzle part, I usually try and just make sure that I've cleaned in between the nozzle exit hole and the actual loading arm in there. And again, just doesn't need to be particularly aggressive. And the thing is, this particular component, this is a replaceable part in the gun. It is going to get dirty. This is where all of the dirty gas gets fired. So you'll be able to see when I give this a little wipe, we are getting a bit of dirt coming off. At the end of the day, though, what we're doing here is relatively superficial. We're just making sure that no extra dirt gets fired back into the system. So look out for any areas that are going to collect dirt. So, for example, you've got here where the Z plate is going to catch. Just make sure that you put something in there, and there you go. Manage to get that little lump of dirt out. And then you can do it one more time to see how well you're actually doing, to see if you are actually managing to clean that part or not. So it looks like for me that we are. So I managed to get some dirt off the front here. And again, just, yep, that's all looking a lot cleaner now. That's looking a lot better. So we'll give this a little wipe. Ultimately, all I'm doing here really is just kind of taking the thin layer of dirt that's built up over all of this. I'm just kind of wiping it off. And the thing is, we are going to be re-lubing all of these components before they go back into the gun. So there we go. Not too bad. A little bit of toilet paper that's built up on there. And obviously, I think I've shown this in the previous one. This is what will happen. Your bolt will develop a burr here, and eventually it will go. So, yep, there we go. I can see here that the nozzle is retracting basically all of the way back. So that's fine. I'm satisfied with that. The extractor is going in and out as I expect. So there's really nothing further on here for me to look into. Maybe double check that these screws are tight, so I know that they are on this one. So for me, that's the bolt done. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, next up. Should we do upper or lower? Let's do the lower. Let's do the lower. So with this, what I'm going to do is just pop these pins in for the second. Now you can see this area here, there's been a lot of blooming, and this is to do with me going in and trying to fix the run-on in my trigger box, and obviously I did that just with loads and loads of silicone oil. So what I'm going to do is just wipe off any excess oil that's on the system on both sides, and then I'm basically going to give this a really superficial cleaning. So again, this doesn't actually have to be particularly sophisticated. All you're trying to do is stop any additional dirt from getting into the system. So along here, I can see that there's some dirt build up. And again, down this side, there we go. Lovely, just getting that muck off. And again, just under this set plate where it's going to be catching. So yep, absolutely fine. So now we'll get underneath the bolt catch, make sure underneath there is clean. Make sure the top here is clean, and basically just give all of these components a bit of a wipe down at the top. Now, this cleaning a buffer tube is very much optional, because as I noted, like some people will fill their buffer tube up with grease, not fill it up with grease, but they will put grease on the spring in order basically that the gun won't twang anymore. So, you know, for some people there is a point in kind of going in and cleaning out a little bit in here. As you can see, it's got pretty filthy. But actually for a lot of people that it's just not that important to do that. So yeah, if you're one of the people that uses grease on your buffer spring, then cleaning the actual buffer out is kind of a waste of time. So we're not actually going to dig into the trigger box, because for the most part that's not required, unless you've got, you know, even when I have my the problem with the gun running on, I still didn't need to actually take the trigger box out and dig into it and, you know, see what was going on there. So all I'm going to do here is drop the hammer, and at this point I can just access the sides of the hammer here, and I can get a little bit on the edge, on the front edge of this sear here, and hopefully you'll be able to see at the edge where it's slightly shinier, that is where it's been catching. So again, not taking it out, just superficially going in and just making sure that everything's not got a huge dirt build-up on it. Okay, that's pretty good. And at this point, I do sometimes go in here with a Q-tip. So I'm not jamming in very hard, it's just pretty gentle, and you'll see that some dirt comes off. But again, this isn't a full strip down, this is more just the kind of thing that you're going to do maybe before or after you go to a skirmish. So there we go, not too worried about that, but essentially that's not bad. Now this is an area that every single person seems to forget, and it's really important, but you kind of don't consider it, and that's the magwell. And so what I'm going to do is, in here, you'll be able to see the catch here, which actually clips onto the magazine. So if I just run my finger over the top of that, you can see how much dirt comes off. That's actually going to be affecting the way that the magazine is held in the gun. If enough dirt builds up on there, you're going to have problems with inserting your mag. So before it happens, just make sure you go in and you clean the magwell. So for me, the most important things are, I usually put my finger quite flat on the side, get it in, and just make sure we're going to rub up and down and side to side. Make sure we get into all those corners as well. So yeah, not a huge amount of dirt coming off. I wouldn't expect a huge amount to come off, but it's important that you get whatever dirt is in there out. Also, you've got these, basically look for any creases, any areas where dirt is going to build up. So along here, I can see that we've got a couple of creases. So if I get in and try and use my nail, just to give some additional pressure, yep, that's all coming out very nicely. Okay, after this, I'm going to have a quick look at the top of the trigger, make sure that this is all nice and clean. It's always got my finger on, so it's going to have some dirt, but that's just kind of me dirt rather than anything else. And just a quick once over, make sure that there's no dirt on any of these bits where the upper and lower are going to be connected to one another. Yep, I'm pretty satisfied with that. You can go through around here and you can do, cleaning around all of the different controls and things like that as well. Obviously that's just going to be mostly for the aesthetic of your rifle. If you're talking about the performance, then it's kind of like all this internal stuff that just needs a little bit of a clean. But we're now at the point that I'm actually quite happy with this. It's had a quick once over. There shouldn't be any nasty bits of dirt in here, so we'll just check that the gun is functioning correctly. Yep. Lovely. Exactly as I would expect. So, being as we're here, let's just get these buffer components, let's drop these back in. To anyone that's wondering as well, I'm using this plastic buffer because we're in the winter season at the moment, or autumn-winter season. And yeah, I don't want, well, I do want heavy recoil, but sacrifices have to be made if you're going to be running a gas blowback rifle during the winter months, or at least the autumn months, or kind of later in the year. Okay, let's get on to the next bit, which is probably the most fun. I say fun in the loosest possible of terms. So here we've got the upper receiver for the gun. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean this trench here, because I know that it's going to be absolutely filthy, and I'm just going to wipe down the insides. So all I'm trying to do is just get off, again, any superficial dirt and nastiness. And what I'm pushing my finger right into the bottom here, and you always want to clean this way, so away from the barrel, basically. Let's pop that out, and there you go, absolute filth on there. Let's turn it inside out, let's go in again. So I'm trying to find any digit which can fit into this this running track at the back, or as much toilet paper as I can force into that gap, nice and tight, run it along, and then push it out the back. And again, that's a lot cleaner than it was before. It's going great. So this time I'm going to think about cleaning the insides here. So just going to reach in. Again, you can see how that dirt is just built up on the sides here. filth. Lovely. Get rid of it. Get it out of the gun. Okay, also while I'm here, let's just give that little lug at the back a little clean. Just give that a little wipe over. Not too bad, not too shabby. There isn't actually a huge amount to do in the upper because obviously you take the bolt out. I'm going to clean these parts here. Not too much dirt, but I mean it's all more that could potentially get introduced into the system, so might as well just get rid of it. So yeah, having a look in here, that actually now looks pretty decent. It looks pretty good. Let's get these bits. Yep, some dirt on there. Some dirt on this part as well. For the most part, that's okay. Just give it a little clean, and this part here I usually get in, and it's usually pretty dirty. Now this bit here is ultimately it's where your charging handle will click in. If you want that nice click sound, then you just want to make sure that this bit here is nice and clean. And you can get in at the sides. Again, getting at the side here. Yeah, not bad at all. Okay, so we've cleaned like the bolt, we've cleaned the lower, we've cleaned most of the upper now, and probably the area that will get the filthiest on a gas blowback rifle is inside the inner barrel, and that's simply because that's where all the gas is being fired with all that additional silicone oil, and so all of it is basically going into the bolt here and it's getting fired out of here down the barrel. So this is basically the filthiest area of the gun, and it needs a little bit of extra care when it comes to cleaning. So I do have a little trick that I use, because the way that you would normally clean a barrel such as this would be you would use the cleaning and unjamming rod, and so we'll just do it now. Take a single sheet of toilet paper, and you'll notice that it will tear fine in one direction but not in another. So take the direction that it will go fine in, get one single strip, pop it through the hole, pull it through, and then spin this round. Oh, damn it, came off. We can recover it, it's fine. We'll just keep that spinning, and I think about there I'm going to tear it off, because I think that that is going to be about the width of my barrel. So noting that I've put the paper on while twisting it this way, so in order to keep it tight I'm going to have to keep twisting it in this direction. Now there we go. Now, so we've now got our cleaning and unjamming rod going in, and it's probably up to about here. Now, what we're going to be doing when we're cleaning is, this is quite a tight fit. So all of this dirt is now going to get pushed down here, and it's going to be sat on my hop-up rubber. I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get a Q-tip, I'm going to bend it, and I'm going to pop it in here, like that. What that means is that when I push the cleaning and unjamming rod down, it's going to hit into that Q-tip, and I feel it there, it's hit into my finger, and it's not going to then push loads of dirt onto my hop-up rubber. And I'm going to use, I'm going to clean the hop-up rubber last. So you can see there's some dirt that's been taken off there. In fact, there's quite a bit of dirt that's been taken off there. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip that bit off, and we're literally going to do it all again. We're just going to repeat the process. Now, normally you would need to repeat this process maybe 2 or 3 times so that it comes out relatively clear. So here I can see that I've torn that too wide. It's still usable, so I'm still going to pop it through here, pull it through, but I just know that it's not going to be able to take as many turns before it's wide enough to fit in the barrel. So again, it's probably about there. So let's go back in, Again, that's maybe a touch too tight on that. Yep, so that's what happens when it goes too tight and I put too much material on there. Take it off, let's give it another go. What I'll often do is do it like that. So I've got my fixed amount first. So let's go in here. One too many coffees today. A little bit shaky. Okay, go in there. And again, make sure I've got my Q-tip in at this end, because I don't want to be pushing all that dirt up onto the hot rubber. And we're going to go forwards and backwards, and slowly I'm easing it out. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of dirt and nastiness on there. Okay. Now let's go in at the hop-up end. I know, because I bent it here, that I've gone that far into the system. So I've got that much space that I can go in with this particular Q-tip and clean this first inch or so of the barrel. And I'll probably get quite a bit of dirt coming off here. I normally do. This is the first point of contact for all the dirt on the system. So this is where it's all going to pretty much end up at the start. And as you can see, a fair bit has come off on there. What you should really do is, I should have mentioned this, ideally you would turn the hop all the way off before you do this, especially if you're going to get something like this and jam it all the way down the barrel. And it's going to make, if you're going to have this make contact with the hop-up rubber, you just want to be really careful that it doesn't like knock anything out of place. So if you're at all worried, you can either turn the hop all the way off by pushing that dial all the way to the front, or you can just do what I do and actually clean the hop area using a Q-tip. So let's do the final thing that I would normally do on a gun like this. And actually, this will probably come as a bit of a surprise. Well, I know it won't be too much of a surprise, but I actually mostly assemble the gun before I re-lube it. So we're all in here, and I don't know where I put my silicone spray, so bear with me, I'll just grab it. Right, got my silicone spray, it's almost empty, we're really close to being done. Quick spray in there, and quick spray in the trigger box. Put everything back together, don't forget to push these pins out. There we go. And let me just get a mag, put it in. Pot lock works. There we go. So hopefully that was useful. There may have been a couple of things in there that you weren't expecting, like me lubing everything after I've actually assembled it. So this is just because of the gun that I'm using. If when you're doing your cleaning, you notice a lot of like metal filings on there, then you definitely want to be lubing those components. So if your charging handle comes out and there's metal filings on it, yeah, you should be lubing it 100%. For me, it's actually not. And as I kind of alluded to at the start of the video, the more silicone oil you actually put on, then the more dirt is attracted to it. So to make it easier to clean in the field and so that it attracts less dirt, I actually don't run the system particularly wet. I do understand that all of the trigger box, you've got moving parts, and in the nozzle as well, and in the back of the nozzle, you've got some O-ring parts, which are essentially gas seals. So for me, just spraying straight into the upper is fine. Actually, if you're worried about the bolt and the charging handle, there's actually a hole in the back of the bolt anyway, so some silicone oil actually does go through into the charging handle. So it's kind of all bases covered. It also means that you're not directly firing any silicone like into and down the barrel again, you know, before you start the system. I do find after you've run like a few mags through, enough gas kind of seeps out anyway that everything kind of lubes up a little bit. So there isn't really too much need to like just start jamming additional lube, because as I said, you know, it's just it's not really worth it for the amount of dirt that it attracts. So yeah, that was most of my guide. The other thing you might be surprised by is I don't take the hop up out. I don't disassemble anything. So I've never really found the need to. It tends to be, the hop up is actually really pretty stable. It would normally be, if I was choosing to change out the hop up rubber, then I would clean the barrel properly. So I would have the barrel naked with no hop up rubber, no hop chamber, nothing on it. That way, you know, if you want to go through with some, you know, what was it, like rubbing alcohol or something like that, you can do that down the barrel, and then you can go through and sort of, you know, make sure you do your cleaning on it. And that's fine. But I don't tend to do that as a, you know, before or after a game. We're talking about what what you're typically gonna do, like on a more regular basis, kind of sat in front of the TV, giving your rifle a quick clean down. And actually, I know this has turned into like a half-hour video, but the reality is it doesn't actually take that long to do, and you can kind of do it while you're doing other things as well. It kind of becomes second nature, and I don't know, in some ways it's kind of fun. It's satisfying to see all that dirt coming off your rifle, and how much better it kind of sounds by doing all that. You get all the functionality kind of back. And yeah, one last thing. I did notice that I'd forgotten the 10p's, so I've left a comment about that. But all the 10p's are back in, and the system is nice and tight. And just to confirm, what the fuck? Maybe one less 10p, yeah. It's warm in here, but I'm not going to cut that because that's just how it goes, you know. Right, guys, thanks for spending your time with me, and I will see you on the next one.